What's going on, everybody? You already know this is boy Narclips boy 94. It came. Let me go to the comment thing real quick. It came Malik back here again. Another podcast today, doing some Elimination Chamber predictions. Just gonna talk about strictly the Chamber match itself. I don't think nobody else really cares about the other card to cover, so we'll just talk about the two main matches for the show. Two Chamber matches. The one for the WWE title. The one to see who faces the winner. To see who faces the Universal Champion right after. So. Smithception on the guest again. I think you've been on here once, right?
Yeah, one at a time.
Yeah, we did it one at a time. So, um, I'll let you go ahead and plug in your stuff real quick. Tell people who you are and where they can find you and all that stuff.
All right, I'm most active on TikTok at Smithception, like you see the name right here, and that's how I am on every single social media platform that you could possibly find me on. But TikTok is what I'm most active on. I have some YouTube content and possibly more to come in the future. And yeah, that's about all I have to say about that.
Let's just dive into let's do the Raw Chamber first, and then we'll go into the SmackDown one.
Okay.
So we got the Raw Chamber for the WWE Championship. Okay, so let's start off. Start off and tell me what you would like to see happen, but what you think is going to happen.
What I would like to see happen is potentially a Money in the Bank cash in after the match, because to me, what other reason do you have to take the Miz out of it if that's not going to happen? So my prediction going into it is that Drew's going to retain, but then that's going to happen right after, like we've seen from like we saw with John Cena in 2010, or John Cena in, what was that, 05 or 06 when Edge had the Money in the Bank?
Yeah, 06. Yeah. So you think, would you be okay? So would you be okay with Miz going into WrestleMania as champion? And I guess he would defend it against Drew. I mean, that would be the person you would take it from.
I wouldn't be completely opposed to it. I mean, it could give Miz that proper main event match that he tried to have in 2011, but ended up being saved by The Rock, and everybody looks back at Mania 27 as being one of the worst.
Yeah. First of all, I've been saying that I would love for Miz to be WWE champion again. Same reason that you said, the first time he won it in 2010, a lot of people pretty much shitted on his championship reign because they feel like he was ready for it. But he's gotten so much better since then. I mean, he's got so much better in so many ways. Let's not forget that this man made the Intercontinental Championship feel important to the product, not for only Raw, but he did it on SmackDown as well. So Miz has proven that he can get a championship over. He's proven that he can get himself over. I think he deserves another championship run. I said it back in 2017 that he should have won Money in the Bank, and he should have got a run then because he was pretty over at that time. The reason
wasn't he just coming off of his feud with Dolph Ziggler at that point, like in 2016?
Yeah. He was really hot at the time too, and the reason I don't see that happen is, number one, unfortunately, well, it's not unfortunate, but I mean, he's doing the stuff with Bad Bunny right now, so they're most likely having their tag team match at WrestleMania, which I think could also be kind of a swerve, because I think he could cash in at WrestleMania, and because WrestleMania is gonna have fans, so the reaction will be there that night, and I think this. What I'm saying is, I think this could be a way for fans to maybe kind of forget about that he has Money in the Bank a little bit, because I mean, you've seen it happen. I think pretty much the best Money in the Bank cash-ins are the one where I think fans maybe forget that certain superstar has the briefcase for a while, and then they cash in, and it's unexpected. Like, oh shit! Like, I forgot he was him. When Seth Rollins had a match with Orton that night, and then he lost, and then later that night he came out and cashed in, and now he leaves WrestleMania as champion.
Yeah, and the one thing there's actually two things that I think made the Seth Rollins cash in great. One, it was an example of WWE booking themselves into a corner and then booking themselves out, because nobody cared about Reigns versus Lesnar, especially not the first time, not the second time, probably not ever. So Rollins cashing in helped them get out of that. Two, they already made you think that Rollins was done for the night because Orton just flatlined him with one of the best RKOs out of nowhere we'd ever seen in their match previous.
Yeah, so maybe it could be maybe it could be some swerve. It's a tag team match, so maybe the Miz doesn't get pinned. Maybe I'm pretty sure John Morrison will get beat. You know what I mean? So he'll take the pin, and maybe maybe it'll be on different nights at WrestleMania. Who knows? Maybe maybe Miz loses on night 1 and cashes in on night 2 or something. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I feel like them taking the Miz out, definitely I can see where you're coming from because he was in it, and then now he's not in it. So it's like, something's got to happen with that, right? Because you just put him in there, then now you took him out. So there's got to be some type of reason. Hopefully, WWE does things for no reason sometimes, but
yeah. One piece of fantasy booking on my end that I would prefer to happen, but probably won't, is what if Miz doesn't go after Drew? He goes after a newly crowned Universal Champion at Mania, Edge. That would require a lot of booking and a lot of decisions that, like any decision is completely out of our control, but a man can dream.
Right. So you're saying, like, basically, well, we'll get into the Universal because it can kind of play into both sides, so we can get into the Universal Championship reign. So what is your official prediction though? What do you see happening for sure?
For the Raw Elimination Chamber?
Yeah, I know you said you would like to see Miz cash in Money in the Bank, but do you actually think that's going to happen, or is it something?
No, I do not think that's going to happen. That's just what I would want. What I think is going to happen is that Drew's going to retain, and maybe there will be some teasing by The Miz, but no official cash-in.
Okay. Give me a second. I got somebody here ready to join. I think I see somebody at the bottom. I think Drew McIntyre is going to retain. A lot of people really think Randy Orton's going to win and Edge is going to challenge him at WrestleMania. But to me, number one, that match has been rumored to happen at WrestleMania for months, so I can understand when people think that. But to me, it would make absolutely no sense for Randy Orton to win, and then this feud with the Fiend just drops out of nowhere, and then Edge gets the match. That would make no sense because it's pointless because there's so much. To me, there's so much story to tell with this feud going on between the Fiend and Orton. So it's like he wins the belt and then you just drop the feud. It's just like, okay, what was the point of all this build up that they've been doing towards the Chamber?
Yeah, I personally would much prefer seeing a Firefly Funhouse type match involving Orton and a returning Fiend than see Orton win the WWE title and have yet another Orton and Edge match. See, as much as I would love to see them have like a good, solid, non-cinematic style match in any kind of way, I feel like they've had too many of those to justify it happening for a fourth time.
I think Drew will retain, and I mean maybe the Fiend. I could see the Fiend coming back at the Chamber and possibly costing Orton, because I wouldn't be surprised if it came down to Orton and if it came down to Randy Orton and the Fiend. Did you hear it? Did you hear us talking during the chat?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, so this is a brief update for you. We're just talking about the Raw Chamber match, and we're just making our predictions real quick. So I'll do mine real quick, then I'll go into what do you think could happen. So I think Drew's gonna win 100%. Don't see Orton winning. Maybe the Fiend comes back that night. They've been teasing that he come back with a new look, all types of stuff. So maybe he comes back with a new look. I'm not sure. Because the look he has right now is already dope. So if he comes back with a new look, I'm interested to see what he looks like. So I wouldn't be shocked if it came down to Orton and Drew, and then all of a sudden, lights go out, and because they can do with them being in the Thunderdome, they can do all types of effects and pause the match and all types of shit. So I'm gonna go with Drew. Not sure about the Fiend's return. I'm not gonna be sold on that yet. I wouldn't be surprised by it, but I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't happen yet, because one of the things I said is that if he comes back with a new look, maybe they should keep him off TV until WrestleMania. Like, you know how basically when Drew challenged Undertaker and Taker didn't show up until WrestleMania, that day of WrestleMania, pretty much Bray Wyatt put up the entire feud by himself on Raw. Maybe they could do something like that too. Maybe Orton, is getting tired of Alexa Bliss doing all these mind games and teases, and then he could just challenge the Fiend and say, you know what, tell the Fiend, I know the Fiend's watching, tell him to show up at WrestleMania or some shit like that. You know what I mean? And they can keep doing little teasers. Because I think the Fiend should start feeling more like a special attraction for special occasions. I feel like he was overplayed a lot when he was on TV, and because with this Fiend character, Bray Wyatt has two different people that he can play. He can do the Mr. Rogers, good guy, red sweater type thing, and then there are other nights when he can bring out the Fiend, but only when necessary. So this is a necessary thing, and if he's gonna come back better and different than he looked before, I think it should be something special for, especially with fans going to be at WrestleMania too. It could be a different type of feel with a new look and all types of things. So, what about you, bro? What do you think could happen, or tell me what you want to see happen and what you think is going to happen?
Yeah. So by the way, like, am I sounding like weird or something?
No.
Okay, cool. But yeah, so for Elimination Chamber, for me personally, I feel like, yeah, Drew's gonna come out on top, but I also feel like they're gonna set up like Sheamus versus Drew for WrestleMania. But in the Elimination Chamber itself, I feel like it's only gonna come down to Sheamus and Drew McIntyre. So we're gonna get like a little preview of that so that they can like build. Probably Sheamus is gonna maybe lose in like a scummy way, maybe, so that he still has like that added like, oh, I can freaking beat you, or like I can't get like a win over you, like, you know, clean. So once we get to WrestleMania, it's gonna go down. You know what I mean?
Okay. I mean, you got to think though. So if Edge is gonna face Roman at WrestleMania, which you know WrestleMania is 2 nights, how do you guys feel if the other WWE Championship match is Drew versus Sheamus? I mean, granted, there's really not too many people on Raw left for him to face. The only person I could think of would be AJ Styles. That would make a lot of sense for us a main event match. But Drew versus Sheamus, I would rather see Drew be like some type of multi-man match than like a Fatal 4 or something, because him versus Sheamus is not, that doesn't sell for me.
You know, the thing that I think would happen is I think the only logical conclusion based on how the story's been building is to have Drew versus Sheamus. So for that reason, I think since Mania is going to be 2 nights again, that will main event night 1, whereas, you know, the Universal title match, which will obviously feel like the bigger match because that's the one that Edge is more likely to go to, will main event the second night. Because, I mean, let's face it, do you honestly see the WWE title match being bigger than the Universal title match at this point?
No, I don't.
Yes.
I think personally, if Drew does face Sheamus, I think one of the female matches should main event the first night, and then because you could have Bianca versus Sasha main event the first night of WrestleMania. That's a bigger match on paper to me than Drew versus Sheamus. And then because I mean obviously it's night 2. I've been telling people night 2 is going to be Roman Reigns main event, no matter who he faces. If it doesn't matter if he faces Daniel Bryan, doesn't matter if he faces Cesaro, no matter who he faces, he's main eventing night 2. So, and obviously, I figured Drew McIntyre would be on night 1. It would only make sense for him to be on night 1 if Roman's going to be on night 2. Yeah. But I think one of the female matches could possibly, I think it would deserve to be one of those spots, at least the main event. Sasha versus Bianca would be huge to be a main event, I think. Because Drew versus Sheamus, it's just, it don't have that main event feel to me for a WrestleMania main event. I mean,
yeah,
Drew McIntyre, great. Sheamus is great too. Unless they do like a multi, like it's like, you know, let's just like Drew versus AJ versus Sheamus or something, you know, some type of multi-man match. But what do you think?
Yeah, and then, well, in my opinion, there's like not really anybody on SmackDown. Well, aside from like maybe like Daniel Bryan or Shinsuke Nakamura, but like there's like nobody to me on SmackDown that can face Roman for the title, like, and like put up like a believable fight than Edge. You know what I'm saying? So, but everybody else on anybody in that chamber match, I can see them facing Drew, like AJ Styles, Jeff Hardy, The Miz. I can see Oracle V. King. I can see any of them facing Drew and put on a good match. So I don't know, like Sheamus versus Drew could surprise us, you know. So because they're both big men, they're both powerhouses, you know. So
right.
I saw you bring up that thing earlier about there being maybe just like a multi-man match for one of the world titles. I personally think if they were going to do a multi-man match, it should be for a mid-card belt, because I think there are you know, like you said, once whoever wins that SmackDown Chamber match goes through everybody that they go through, and then Roman inevitably beats them, probably, then Roman will have basically gone through everybody he possibly could have, especially since there's people in that chamber match that he's beat. So have those people go for mid-card titles, save your big world title matches for people that have yet to face him, like Edge.
Yeah. I'm not saying that Edge, I mean Sheamus versus Drew like can't be a good match, but I'm talking about like on paper, like for the build up for WrestleMania. When you look at like the WrestleMania card, you look at the matches you're going to be excited for. That's not a match I want to look at. Be like, oh, I can't wait to look at Drew versus Sheamus. Okay, could be a good match, but it's not going to get me excited. You know what I mean, for a big WrestleMania match. Honestly, what they should have done, now that I'm thinking about it, because they're very limited. From what I heard, they really wanted Drew McIntyre's opponent to be John Cena, but John Cena can't come to WrestleMania because, number one, he's been filming some type of spinoff in Canada for the movie he did with the DC movie, Suicide Squad. The character he played, he's doing some type of he's doing a TV show for his character for Suicide Squad for HBO, and he's not able to travel through because of the pandemic we're in right now. So he's not able to flip flop back and forth because of restrictions. So he said that he won't be able to be on WrestleMania for that reason, because he said any other reason he'd be there, but he can't be there because of that reason. So they wanted him to be his opponent because that would be a big money match for Drew. Because of Edge going to face Roman, that would be another big match aside for Drew. But now that I'm thinking about it, what they really should have done, honestly, is that you could have had Drew face Goldberg at WrestleMania, and you could have had the exact same play out how the match was. Have Drew beat Goldberg and have Goldberg give him multiple spears and have Drew sell the injury, and then you could have Miz cash in right after that and take the belt from Drew McIntyre, because number one, Drew versus Goldberg would give a bigger feel than Sheamus versus Drew. And Goldberg would be believable, even though we would want Goldberg to win, but he would be believable enough where you kind of think in your mind, like, they might give the fucking title to Goldberg again. And if you did the match the exact same way, how they did at the Rumble, how in the beginning, they fought at the beginning, and then, Drew took a couple spears, so that led to the injury. You could have Drew take a couple of spears and then have Drew win, and then, after the match, he could sell the ribs and everything, and then maybe John Morrison comes out after the match and beats him up, or something happens after the match where Miz cashes in and takes the belt, because then Drew still beat Goldberg, so now that makes Drew look good because he's beat a legend, but now he's still hurt, and the Miz capitalized on the opportunity and takes the belt, because the match wouldn't even be long either. So I think that's something that they could have done. Obviously, too late, but that was just a thought of mine.
Yeah, as much as your idea does make a lot of sense, the only problem that I have with that proposal is that I wouldn't want a world title match, just like both world title matches were last year, to go 5 minutes. I just feel like the belts deserve more than that.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah. I feel that.
Because I fully believe that Miz is going to cash in at WrestleMania somehow. You know what I mean? And I would want like a big match, like if we were to get Edge versus Roman, like, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know. Maybe it's just me that I think that Sheamus and Drew could, does have that like feel to be like a main event type, because like we haven't seen Sheamus in like the world title picture in a long time. You know what I'm saying? So they could surprise us with a dope match. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they could definitely deliver. And I personally have always been like a pretty big fan of Sheamus, so I definitely wouldn't be upset about that.
I'm definitely not against Sheamus. I thought Sheamus is great. Don't get me wrong, but if you look at, I don't know, he just, when I'm looking at the WrestleMania card, I mean, there's not really too many people in Raw. The only person that I can look at on Raw that he hasn't really had a legit feud with yet, that would be a main event match for WrestleMania, would be AJ Styles. I mean, that's the only other person. I mean, even though they did have a match, they haven't had a legit feud storyline. But then you got to weigh your options, because I seen an interview where AJ said that he wants to face Triple H at WrestleMania, and if they go that route, it's kind of like, if I had to pick between the two, I'd rather see him versus Triple H, to be honest, just because that's a match we haven't seen yet, and it's just the first time ever dream match, and Triple H getting older too, so it's like it's like one of those now or never type things. But I'm gonna go with Drew for the win. Maybe to see the Fiend return, because I see some people in the comments, saying maybe they want the Fiend to show up. I know a lot of y'all, bro. A lot of y'all been blowing me up, man. When I do the videos of the Fiend, we ask, "Where's the Fiend? When you come back, bro?" There's got to be patient, bro. It's got to be patient. He's coming back. They're stretching it out, which I really like, man. They're stretching it out, and it gives more time for them to do a lot of great stuff with Alexa Bliss, because she is fucking killing her character right now. So shout out to Alexa Bliss, bro, because I'm not gonna say I was never been a crazy Alexa Bliss fan, but I've never been against her. But this is the most interested I've ever been in her entire career by far. So she's absolutely destroying her role right now. And like I said, her and Randy Orton by themselves could build up this feud for WrestleMania if they kept the Fiend on television until WrestleMania. Like that's it. You can just need those two alone. So there's so many ways you could do it too, man. That they could build it up. But I think everybody's picking Randy. I mean, everybody's picking Drew to win here. Let me look at some of these comments real quick. I see the Fiend returning at Mania. The Fiend's coming back tomorrow. Let's look at some of the other one. Drew versus Goldberg. Nobody want to see that, bro. I mean, nobody want to see Drew versus Goldberg, but it's a bigger field than Drew versus Sheamus, bro, because Goldberg's a legend. So, Randy should win the Chamber, and then Randy versus the Fiend for the world title. See, the Fiend doesn't need.
Here's the thing, though. It's like I know most likely there's gonna be some shenanigans with when Randy Orton enters the chamber, maybe with Alexa Bliss, maybe the Fiend's gonna return, but I don't know. It's like I know that they're gonna make this feud drag out all the way until WrestleMania, and that's just where it's gonna just collide, and that's where it's gonna go just break down, you know. So I don't know. The Fiend could return tomorrow, but I have this thing in the back of my mind that I just know that something's gonna happen with Alexa Bliss and the Fiend when Randy Orton enters the chamber, or when Randy Orton enters the chamber, you know.
Yeah, all I know is that regardless of how they build that feud between Orton and the Fiend, rule of thumb for any Fiend feud in general, any angle you do with him, don't put a title in it because we all know how that turns out. Like, I think we can all agree that the Fiend is the type of character / gimmick that doesn't need a belt because it will devalue the character.
But it depends on how you do it, though, because like when he had that rivalry with Daniel Bryan, that was dope. You know, but when Goldberg came back and fought the Fiend, it made it even more like, okay, maybe we shouldn't put him in this thing again. It to me, it just all depends on how you set it up, you know.
Yeah, well, I can definitely see that. It's just that I don't know the whole. I guess I see your point, but I guess the whole reason I'm opposed to it is that when you put a physical belt on the Fiend, just like you would put on any like human wrestler, you kind of humanize him, and that's not a character that's meant to be humanized.
Another thing too is that when you win the belt, you also have to lose it too, and a lot of people feel like the Fiend shouldn't be losing matches. The same with Roman right now. A lot of people feel like Roman Reigns is too dominant to be losing right now. But I'm like, I've been telling people for months. I'm like, bro, he has to lose the belt eventually. He's not going to be champ forever. I mean, he's the shit right now, and he's dominant, but he has to lose at some point. So he can't be undefeated for a long period of time. You know what I mean? Like you have to lose at some point. So that's also one of the downfalls about putting a belt on somebody who's dominant. You know what I mean? Because you have the belt for a certain period of time, but you got to lose it. You know what I'm saying? That's why we talked about earlier about the Rollins cash in, that was a good way for Lesnar to lose the belt because number one, he never got pinned during that match, and because Lesnar was so dominant at that time, bro. Like he beat the Streak at the WrestleMania the year before, destroyed John Cena at SummerSlam. He was like this unstoppable force where you feel like nobody can beat this guy.
And that's all, and I all bring back to my point. It all depends on how you do it. You know what I'm saying? Like a dominant superstar. He can lose, but it all depends on how you lose to the point where you can still feel like you're dominant. You know, like Roman Reigns could like lose in like maybe like a scummy way, or like Roman Reigns could lose in like, but they had like a dope match. You know what I'm saying? So he could lose, but like really you would feel like nobody really lost because it was a dope match. It just all depends on how they get beat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand.
All right, before we move on to the SmackDown Chamber, somebody says Lesnar returns and challenges Drew at WrestleMania. That would be a big match. I just don't know if Brock Lesnar is coming back to wrestling. I mean, I don't know. Nobody knows what Brock Lesnar does. Only Brock Lesnar, bro, because Brock Lesnar does whatever he wants. So,
if Brock does come back, me personally, I don't want to see him in a world title picture because it's just like Brock Lesnar. He can have a rivalry with somebody other than it being for a championship. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would love to see like Brock Lesnar like have a rivalry with like AJ Styles, or like a rivalry with like Braun Strowman, or just somebody that's like it's just not gonna be for like a world title. I feel like it just takes away of people could just get tired of him being world champion and just stuff like that. And it's like, oh, every time Brock Lesnar comes back, it's for a world title, so it's probably not gonna have any like feuds that are gonna be worth anything. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, I
Yeah.
personally am no longer a fan of Brock Lesnar in the WWE, but that's just me. And if anybody from my TikTok audience happens to be watching this, then they know how much I despise Brock Lesnar, especially being in the world title picture.
Yeah. The only good thing about it to me was that if he comes back and does it and he puts Drew over, it makes Drew build him up even stronger. But if it's not going to be for that reason, he doesn't need to have a championship again. I understand why they put the belt on him, because you put the belt on him, and then every time he has it, you want him to lose, and every time he has lost it, it has elevated somebody. When they did Seth Rollins, when Roman, Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania, but the problem is that it's like the same story. They keep doing it over and over again. Like, we've already seen this before. You know what I mean? Like, Brock wins the belt. You're trying to build up a new star by him doing that, okay? But we've done it so many times. Like, why do we keep doing this over again? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So if Brock comes back, I wouldn't be against Brock coming back. But there's other people he could work with. You know what I mean? Besides the world title picture, put him in a feud with Kevin Owens. We haven't seen that one.
Yeah.
Put him in a feud with the fucking Fiend right there. God.
Yeah,
I'd be so.
I'm not, because I'm not opposed to Brock Lesnar coming back anyway. I like Brock Lesnar, but it's just like I just don't like. I feel like he doesn't need to be in the world title picture every single time. Same thing with Charlotte Flair. I love Charlotte Flair, but I feel like she doesn't need to be in the world title picture every single time. Like she can have a feud with somebody else other than it being for the title. You know what I'm saying? And
Well, I mean, she was doing that, and then the other person she was in the feud with got pregnant in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
I mean, and honestly, if they brought Brock back to him versus Bobby Lashley, I think is a match that they long overdone.
Yeah. I would die to see Lesnar and Lashley, dude. That sounds awesome.
And I thought they were gonna do that a long time ago when he had that feud with Roman Reigns. I thought like that was gonna be like the money match.
Yeah,
but
I don't understand why they had. Still don't understand why they had Bobby Lashley beat Roman Reigns at Extreme Rules, and then all of a sudden they just have the match for the number one contender
Exactly.
And then Roman wins. Like, what was the point of that? It's like they hesitated. It's like they wanted to do it, but then they changed their mind. So, let's move on to the SmackDown Chamber match. So, this one's kind of
more up in the air.
It's got a lot of things happening all at once, because you have the Chamber match, and then whoever wins the Chamber match gets the match with Roman right after they just went through the Chamber. You know what I mean? So it's very interesting to see. I'm not gonna be one of those people who say that it's terrible booking, because I want to see what happens afterwards, and I got to see what happens first before I can say it was bad or not. So there are multiple things I think that can happen in this. First of all, okay, I'll just say Baron Corbin and Sami Zayn are not winning. They'll probably be one of the first two out. So those two are not winning. Jey Uso, though, I know some people who think he's gonna win and kind of just hand the victory to Roman. And I wouldn't be surprised by that. Maybe Jey Uso wins and hands the victory. Maybe Jey Uso wins and is gonna lay down for Roman, and then his brother comes back. You know what I mean? And maybe his brother is. Maybe they do a story where his brother is against Roman at first, and then all of a sudden, he kind of like Jey Uso, kind of all of a sudden now he's falling in line. Now he's with Roman, because you could do that. You could do a feud like that. You could do a feud where Jimmy Uso comes back, and he's doing this thing where he's not feeling Roman's attitude and character. He's like, I'm not with this. You know what I'm saying? I'm not with the Tribal Chief stuff. Like, you're not the same guy I know, or you're not the same brother that you once were. And then he could kind of send his twin brother kind of after him, like, you need to go check your brother. Start thinking, right? You need to go get him straight and make him fall in line, because they never really had a little. The Uso brothers never really had a feud in WWE, and this would be the perfect time for it to make a lot of sense. You know what I mean, at the time, so they could have the little feud, and maybe they do something like that. Cesaro has a lot of momentum right now. It's just hard. My only thing with that is it's hard for me to believe WWE pushes this guy, because there's so many times where I was like, they giving me hope with Cesaro. I'm like, you know what? They're actually gonna do something with him, and then they don't. So I'm like, I feel like they're kind of just fucking with us on this a little bit, because I feel like they're kind of just plugging in Cesaro a little bit, and then all of a sudden, maybe he does win the Chamber. I don't know. I would totally love to see Cesaro win, but I don't know if I would go. I don't know if I could see it happening. Daniel Bryan, somebody I definitely could see winning.
100%.
That's
That's my pick.
And if it's not Daniel Bryan, it would only other person that I could see winning would be Cesaro. But the whole thing with the match right after, you know what I mean? Like you get a shot like that. That was kind of interesting when they said that because I was like, the winner. I'm thinking at first I'm thinking they're gonna say the winner is gonna challenge Roman at WrestleMania or something. Like, oh shit, like maybe or the winner gets a shot at Fastlane or some shit like that. And then they said you get a shot right after. So I'm like, right after? You know what I'm saying, like they go to the chamber and then right after they gotta face Roman. So I'm like, something has to happen.
I said this on my TikTok too. I was like, maybe because like Daniel Bryan has a good track record when it comes to pulling double duty in the same night. That's why now, honestly, do I think that they're gonna drop the belt to Roman in the same night? No, but it all because my vote is for Daniel Bryan to win. That's my prediction. But maybe they're gonna build like a triple threat feud against him, Roman, and Edge, which would be, in my opinion, would be freaking fire. But it's the same thing. Like I said the last time. Like I don't see anybody that's believable to face Roman for the title other than maybe like Daniel Bryan or Jey Uso. You know what I'm saying? Because I fully believe that Raw has way better contenders than SmackDown, even though I love SmackDown.
Yeah, that's why when it comes to like my fantasy pick and versus what I actually think is going to happen, my fantasy pick would be for Cesaro to win the Chamber, and then during his match with Roman immediately after, it seems like Cesaro is going to win. Rollins gets involved, costs Cesaro, so that way they can build the Cesaro and Rollins at Mania, because we got a hint of that like last week or 2 weeks ago on SmackDown. But the thing I actually think is going to happen is Jey Uso wins and then lays down willingly for Roman, because of course he will.
Yeah, I mean Cesaro versus Seth Rollins. I definitely think it's going to happen. That's actually a pretty good prediction. Actually, I never thought of it. So that's actually one that would make a lot of sense for it to happen, because you could have the match right after, and Cesaro could look like a fucking monster. You know what I'm saying? For that match.
Yeah, because it protects Cesaro. It protects Cesaro in the match because he, Roman won dirty, even if he didn't have to, but it's for protecting him. And you get what we know is going to be a banger of a match at Mania with two amazing workers, probably two of the best we have on the main roster.
Oh, yeah.
The triple threat could make a lot of sense, too, because that's a way for them to take the belt off Roman, because he wouldn't get pinned during that match, you know what I mean? So it would make a lot of sense. My thing is, though, when I've been telling people that Roman has to lose the belt at some point, I'm with what you said. To me, storyline-wise, I think Edge is believable enough to take the belt off Roman at WrestleMania because of the story that they've been doing, the comeback story. Number one, he never lost the title when he had to retire for the first time, so that gives him a reason to want to get back in the title picture. Him coming in number one at the Rumble, lasting out everybody, proving that he still has it, proving that he can outlast everybody and get the job done, go to WrestleMania. I think it's believable enough. I think, there are ways you can lose matches and still look great afterwards. You know what I'm saying? You could take fucking Kane at WrestleMania 14 when he lost to Undertaker. He kicked out of 2 tombstones before he got beat by the third one. And he still kicked out of the third one right after he got pinned. So it's like, and back then that was a big deal because nobody was kicking out of tombstones like that back then. So he kicked out of 2 and then got pinned, but he kind of kicked out like after the third one. You know what I mean? So Kane still looked like a fucking beast after the match. He lost, but Kane still was like, oh, he's still shit. You know what I mean? There are ways you can do things and build someone up to be strong. And I think you could have Roman lose and you can build him up stronger, chasing the title back, try to get it back from Edge. Because you can kind of stretch it out until SummerSlam. I think you could have Roman lose, and I'm not saying keep him off TV, but you can do things where you can do like little vignettes of him, like they can build up like a little Samoan Hawaiian vignette type thing, where you could do things maybe you could do things with the Wild Samoans and his dad, and all the legendary Samoan legends get in the vignettes, and they're kind of not down talking Roman, but they're kind of just pep talking him like, hey man, like you're the leader of the pride now, you're the leader of the family, like you have to step it up. If you're gonna be the head of the table, you have to be better than everybody. You know what I mean? So now Roman realizes that even though he's good, he has to step up his game even further to get the belt back. So now he has to not reinvent himself away, but he has to just be more dominant than he was before. You know what I mean? There are ways you could have this man lose the belt and still look strong to get the title back from Edge, because the story would I think the story would be fire if you ask me.
I mean, if they're going to keep going with the tribal chief thing in the head of the table story and make it family oriented, like that's definitely a logical way to go. I could see that.
Yeah, and then my thing is that like if Edge was to go after Drew McIntyre and let's say Edge beat Drew McIntyre, I feel like Drew McIntyre's momentum would just be killed as the WWE champion, as to where like if Edge was to beat Roman Reigns and Edge won, then it will just make Roman Reigns like even more angrier, even more stronger. Maybe it'll have him be more destructive because he feels like, you know, he's the head of the table. And so he feels like he just let down his entire generation. So now he wants to be back and even stronger, even more ruthless and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So it'll make Roman Reigns be an even bigger threat on his brand. That's
exactly what I've been saying for months. That's what I've been trying to tell people, man, because a lot of people aren't seeing it that way. A lot of people are looking at it as if Roman loses, that kills his momentum. I'm like, bro, number one, I think it would kill Drew McIntyre's momentum more, because a lot of people feel like that even though Drew McIntyre's a WWE champion, we know that he's not the top. He's not the top guy. Roman's the top guy, and a lot of people feel like he's not on the same level as Roman when it comes to star power and it comes to believability. Because if you look at it, for example, if Roman had faced Goldberg at the Royal Rumble, nobody was going to pick Goldberg to win that match, because you just wouldn't believe that Goldberg would have beat Roman. But a lot of people actually thought Goldberg could have beat Drew McIntyre, because he didn't have that. Some people didn't feel like he had that believable character enough where you just believe like, okay, he's going to win. Kind of like, you know, there are certain superstars throughout their careers where it's hard for them to believe that they can lose. Like, same with Brock, you know what I mean? When Brock was dominant, it was hard for people to believe that he was going to lose certain matches. You know what I mean? Like, okay, Brock's going to win this match. Brock's going to win this match for sure. I think the same with Roman right now. It's hard for people to believe that Roman can lose at this point. You have to get Drew McIntyre on that same level. And they've built him up strongly as champion, don't get me wrong. I mean, he's beaten Randy Orton. He beat Goldberg at the Rumble. He beat Brock last year at WrestleMania. So he's beaten good people. It's just there's something missing there, I think, and they have to continue to find out what it is.
Oh, no, go first.
Okay, yeah. So I'm actually glad that you brought up Brock and the idea that people, you know, they built up Brock as the monster who couldn't be beat, as if he was like a final video game boss, because I now view, and I'm sure many people view, Roman Reigns as the top guy of that company, since, as far as we know, Brock Lesnar isn't even contracted. So Roman Reigns kind of took the spot of a Brock Lesnar type character. So that's one of the reasons I don't buy the argument that Edge can't handle beating Roman, or Roman can't take a loss, because that's like saying that Brock Lesnar couldn't take a loss when he can. It just depends on how they build it, and they've done everything, in my opinion, perfectly to build Edge into a guy that can do it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's like because like it's not so much with Drew McIntyre. It's not so much as like I don't believe that like he's not at that same level. It's just that with Roman Reigns, that like he's dominant. So if I'm watching a Roman Reigns match and like I see him fighting for the title, or I'm seeing him defending his title, I'm like, oh, Roman Reigns is gonna win. But if I see Drew McIntyre face somebody like AJ Styles or Jeff Hardy, I'm like, wow, like they're probably gonna have like a dope match. So I don't know who's gonna win. You know what I'm saying? So because with Roman Reigns matches, it's like it's more storyline rather than like moves, and rather than like, you know, in-ring, you know, ability. You know what I'm saying? You know, yeah, Roman Reigns got in-ring ability, but it's more like the story he's telling. As to where with Drew McIntyre, if he was to face AJ Styles, for example, then you know that these two dudes, they're going to put on a 5-star match. You know what I'm saying? So with Drew McIntyre, as to him not being on the same level, it's like, it's just that they don't see Drew McIntyre as like going to take over the entire match like Roman Reigns would, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're really high on Drew McIntyre. You know, they should continue to build him up as a dominant champion and a dominant top star for the company. It's just, even if AJ Styles was going to face Roman Reigns, you could look at him like, oh, they're going to have a banger match, but you wouldn't believe AJ is going to beat Roman, just because Roman is just so dominant right now. With anybody that Drew McIntyre faces, it's kind of 50-50 to the split way, you know what I mean? And I think you have to continue to try to build him up to get to that same level as Roman, because I believe he can get there. Some people don't like Drew McIntyre. They don't think he's a top guy material. That's your opinion, but I think he is. And I think you have to continue to try to build him up to get there because he's beaten the right people so far. It's just something's not there yet. And you have to try to continue to try to get him there because I think he has potential to get there.
I think another Mania win would be a perfect way to do that because I'm in the same boat as you where I fully agree that Drew is just as capable as being a top guy that Reigns or Lesnar could be if the booking is correct. When I first saw him lose the title at Hell in a Cell to Randy, I thought, oh, this is done. We got another Kofi situation. Not to that extreme, but in the way that he got his time. Now they're going to move on to what they always do. But they didn't do that this time. They did. I don't know why they had Randy hold the title for 2 weeks, but he did. They put it back on Drew. They gave Drew the big win against one of their biggest, even though he's one of their most problematic part-timers, and that really solidified him as a top guy. And I think they're going in the right direction with him. Thank God.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that there are ways you have to continue to build Drew McIntyre, and I think another Mania win would be huge for him. And like I said, he could win his match at WrestleMania. You could still have Miz cash in right afterwards, and it wouldn't hurt Drew McIntyre at all because if he just went through a battle at WrestleMania and he went through a war and he won and he still got over and then he lost right afterwards, okay, well, that's what Money in the Bank's for. I mean, you're supposed to capitalize on opportunities like that. That sets up a feud right before that sets up a feud between Miz and Drew McIntyre right after WrestleMania. That's a fresh one that we haven't even seen yet, you know what I mean? And that could also, because I think the reason that they had Randy win was, number one, to get him closer to that 16 title nod, and two, was to get another nod on Drew McIntyre's reign so that he can have another world title reign on his record. So now he's a two-time WWE champion instead of, instead of just having the one-time WWE champion. So, like I said, I think there are different ways they can build it up. I just think, as of right now, what I also try to tell people, too, is that Roman Reigns losing at WrestleMania won't hurt Roman because Roman Reigns is in a solidified spot. There's nothing that WWE is going to do to hurt this man. Roman Reigns will always be a main event top guy. There's nothing that they can do to just like with Charlotte to me. There's nothing they can do to bury her. Nothing, because she's always going to be in a top spot. Nothing. There's nothing they can do. She could lose 3 WrestleMania. She could lose 3 matches in a row, pay-per-view matches, and you would still feel like she was one of the top females in the division because she just they built her up that way. The same with Roman.
And for that though, it's because like throughout the get-go, when the Shield split, they obviously saw something in Roman Reigns. They saw something in all 3 of them, but they picked Roman Reigns to be like their top guy early, and so that's why he was like pushed to the freaking moon because they saw something in Roman Reigns early. Same with Charlotte. When Charlotte first got here, they saw something in Charlotte early, so they pushed her to the moon. You know what I'm saying? When Drew McIntyre was here, yeah, he was regarded like the chosen one and stuff like that, but nobody really saw him as like a world title like consider. Like nobody saw him as like the top guy when he first arrived. But with Roman Reigns and Charlotte, they immediately saw potential in them from the get-go. So that's just my take on it.
Yeah, they saw potential in Roman Reigns before the Shield even existed as a concept because as CM Punk has stated on multiple occasions, his original idea for the Shield was to have guys that he could wreck house with, and he pitched Ambrose, Rollins, and Chris Hero, but they said they didn't want Chris Hero, they wanted Liaki, who became Roman Reigns.
Yeah, and I told people from the start, people can go back and vouch for me. I said in the beginning, when the Shield was together, I was telling people, because at the time, the best worker in the group was Seth Rollins, the best talker was Dean Ambrose in the group. And I was telling people, when they split up, Roman Reigns is going to be the star of that group. They're going to make him one of the stars. Number one, because of the Samoan heritage that they have. WWE highly respects the Samoan wrestlers, and they've always done right with the Samoan wrestlers, from Yokozuna to Rikishi to The Rock, Wild Samoans, High Chief Peter Maivia. They've all been top guys at one point, or top tag teams. And then you look at when they split up. Not only that, Roman has the look that they want. He looks like a star. Look at him. he looks like a fucking monster. He looks like a legit star. So he's going to be somebody that they're going to push. And as soon as the CEOs split up, the man got the main event of WrestleMania the next year. He main evented 4 WrestleManias after he main evented 4 straight WrestleManias after that. No, John Cena didn't even main event 4 WrestleManias in a row. Okay, the last person to do that was Hulk Hogan back in his day. So they obviously have high potential on Roman Reigns. They shoved him down our throats for quite a bit sometime, forcefully, trying to make us accept him as the guy. But now he's somebody that everybody can get behind. And maybe, like I said, maybe they do a triple threat where they add Daniel Bryan in there. And, Daniel Bryan gets out at WrestleMania. That way Roman loses the belt, but he didn't get pinned. And you can still do the storyline where, now that he lost the belt, he's gonna be stronger trying to chase the belt now to get it back.
Yeah, it all ties, and it all goes back to what I was saying, about booking. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody can be dominant, somebody can go on like a streak and it can be destructive, but it all depends. Their loss doesn't really kill the momentum. It's just how they lose and how they book it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So, final prediction for me, I'm gonna go with Daniel Bryan to win. I would love for Cesaro to win. Wouldn't be against it. Don't see Kevin Owens winning because mainly he's had multiple opportunities. Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn and Baron Corbin most definitely not winning. Jey Uso winning. It wouldn't shock me. I wouldn't be shocked at all. I wouldn't be shocked about Cesaro, Jey Uso, or Daniel Bryan. Those are the main 3. I wouldn't be shocked by any of those 3 guys winning. But out of those 3 guys, I gotta go. I think Daniel Bryan is gonna get it.
If I had to guess, I'm going with Jey Uso for part of the reasons you said earlier. Kevin Owens had multiple opportunities. I see Corbin and Zayn as being yet another mixed match tag team to eventually go for the tag titles or something. Daniel Bryan, I'm just saying this right now, will never have a world championship in WWE again. And Cesaro, as I'm predicting, is going to be in a feud with Rollins. So that leaves me with the only logical choice, Jey Uso.
Yeah. And I'll say this, to the end of time, you know what I'm saying? My vote's for Daniel Bryan solely because dude's resilient. He pulled double duty at WrestleMania 30 when he beat Triple H and then went on in the main event to win the whole thing. Daniel Bryan might shock all of us, you know what I'm saying? And in my opinion, I like Cesaro. Cesaro, he's, being pushed right now and he should be in the world title picture. But I don't know, just like in my opinion, I feel like if it's not going to be Shinsuke, because I love Shinsuke and I feel like he's another viable contender, then I got to go with Daniel Bryan.
Okay. Shinsuke's not even in the chamber either, which kind of surprised me. I thought he was going to kind of be inserted in there too, and he wasn't. So that kind of.
Didn't they announce that Shinsuke was going to be in a kickoff match for the U.S. title with Big E and Apollo Crews?
That's wonderful. Another kickoff match. I don't know. It seems like they were starting to build him up for the right way because they gave him his own theme music back, and he gave him, he doesn't wear the goofy, outfit anymore. He has his old outfit back too, so it's kind of like, okay, he may be getting a little push again. I thought they would put him in the chamber, but they didn't. So maybe I don't know. I don't know what his plans could be for WrestleMania. I don't know what he does. Maybe he does something.
Who the hell knows anymore?
So I don't know. I don't know what he could possibly do, especially if Seth Rollins is going to face Cesaro. Seth Rollins is one of their top heels in the company right now, especially for SmackDown. So maybe some type of multi-man match. This is why I wish they had Money in the Bank at WrestleMania. It just makes a lot of sense to keep Money in the Bank for WrestleMania because guys like Shinsuke could be in it. It gives other guys multiple opportunities to be in an important match for WrestleMania. So I wish they would bring back Money in the Bank to WrestleMania. But how do you guys, moving forward, how would you guys feel if they kept WrestleMania 2 nights? Would you be for it, or would you rather see it be 1 night?
I would prefer for it to be 1 night, but that would require them to do like an overall on how they book their Mania cards. But because of how many matches and just how much content they try to put into a single night of WrestleMania normally in a non-pandemic era, for what they do, 2 nights is a good fit.
Yeah, I'm all for 1 night. When they first did it, at the last WrestleMania, I'm like, it was cool, but it's like I'm expecting like everything to be all in 1 night. So maybe it's just me being like, I just want everything just be all in 1 night, and the matches that I'm looking forward to, I can watch them already. You know what I'm saying? So me personally, I'm all for one night.
Yeah. Well, as somebody who's gotten more invested in New Japan Pro Wrestling and seeing them do their equivalent to WrestleMania, Wrestle Kingdom, which has like almost always traditionally been a 2-night event, I've become more accepting to the concept of a 2-night Mania.
I can see that.
I would much rather see it be 2 nights, mainly because WrestleMania is so long nowadays. And unless they shorten the hours of WrestleMania, I would be fine with WrestleMania being 1 night. But for it to be 7 hours, bro, like counting the pre-show's 2 hours and the main card's 5 hours. It's so long for people to sit through an entire wrestling show that long, man.
Don't we know it?
I mean, it's much like somebody would, sit through like a boxing match, because like you got pre-fights and then you got the main event, and same with MMA, you got the pre-fights and then you got the main event. You know what I'm saying? So it's just me being used to seeing like the UFC and boxing, and now WrestleMania like going all the whole shebang. It's just, I don't know. It's like I feel like like a whole 1 night event would be better in my opinion.
It's just, for me, by the time you get to the main event, people shouldn't feel tired. People should be excited when the main event comes on. And the last couple of WrestleManias, you look at WrestleMania 35, by the time the main event went on and Becky Lynch was the champion, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. Like, why is WrestleMania ending at 1 in the morning? Like, this is just 1 in the morning is the time. That's when we're supposed to be talking about WrestleMania. We were all supposed to be talking about how great WrestleMania was and how fantastic it was. If you look at all the WrestleManias from the Ruthless Aggression era, all the WrestleMania from the Ruthless Aggression eras were all good because they weren't too long, they weren't too short, they were all perfect timings. They all had great matches that made a lot of sense for the card, and the main events were all fire because people were hyped by the shows. And I know people who went to WrestleMania 33, WrestleMania 34, 35, 32. And all those people said by the time the main event came on, they're like, bro, like the energy was so low in the crowd because they've already seen so many matches by then, and they've been there for so many hours by then. Because you got to think, they get there early for the pre-show. The pre-show starts at 5 o'clock, so they're getting there like at 3 o'clock for the stadium just so they can get in. And WrestleMania is over at 1 o'clock. They're there from 3 to 1 o'clock.
Yeah, well, it's just a problem that they have now, where they try to put as much content into a WrestleMania as possible, when in theory, a WrestleMania being your biggest event of the year should only have your biggest stars. But they stopped doing that, and it'll probably never go back to being that way again.
That's why I said 2 nights would make a lot more sense, because you could fit more people into the card, and WrestleMania doesn't have to be so long, so you could fit certain matches on one night, and the next night you got the other certain matches. You know what I mean? And it's a win-win situation for everybody. I think it's
agreed
a win-win for everybody, because
I can see that.
Night 1 is not too long. Night 2 is not too long either. You know what I mean? So it's just, I think it's such a better situation for a lot of people, and it opens up more opportunities for other stars too, because like I said, they try to jam pack everybody into one card for WrestleMania now. That's why it's so long, because that's why they have so many multi-man matches now, and they're trying to do all these battle royals that nobody cares about. So it's just like, if they're going to do WrestleMania moving forward, I think 2 nights would be a lot better for a lot of fans. I can understand traditional wrestling fans like yourself, myself included. We're so used to WrestleMania being 1 night because that's what it's been our whole lives. But me loving it, I also am a big New Japan fan too. So I liked Wrestle Kingdom being 2 nights because, like I said, it opens up more opportunities for other people. Storyline wise, it could also open up things for storyline booking too. So I'm for WrestleMania being 2 nights.
Yeah, and the one advantage that I could see WrestleMania having over Wrestle Kingdom in terms of it being 2 nights is that a major flaw I've noticed with the Wrestle Kingdom main events is that usually one of the people who goes into the first main event is also in the second, and the second match generally tends to not live up to the hype that the first one did. But when you have enough talent and enough belts to justify 2 main events with 2 completely different people, it could turn out better.
Yeah. So that's just my thoughts on it. I don't know. Maybe they do it moving forward. Maybe they don't. I understand what they did last year because of the pandemic, and they're doing it pretty much this year, I guess, because of COVID and everything still too. But I think it could be a thing moving forward, man. I mean, I wouldn't be against it.
It's just all about like I said, booking. Like if you have a whole 1 night WrestleMania and from start to finish, it's just fire. You know, because I feel like when people like say like, you know, like, okay, we're getting tired towards the main event, it's because maybe like the matches dragged on like more longer than what they should have been. You know, if they have like fire right out of the gate, then you're gonna be excited throughout the gate. You know what I'm saying? That's the same way, because one of my favorite WrestleManias was WrestleMania 26 with Shawn Michaels and Taker, and right out of the gate, you're like, I was invested throughout for every single match. You know, so it's all about like how how it's paced, in my opinion.
Yeah, WrestleMania 17 is heralded as one of the best, if not the best, WrestleMania of all time. And even that has some matches on it that absolutely suck, like the one with Right to Censor against APA and Taz and the gimmick battle royal. But because of how well they paced the matches, and because every match that wasn't those two that sucked was still very enjoyable, that's why people call it one of the best.
You know what I'm saying? And the thing is that like the 2-night thing last year, it worked perfectly because I was looking forward to the Boneyard match. Boneyard match was awesome. And I was also looking forward to the Firefly Funhouse match. And the way they structured those, the way they paced those together, you know, it was great. It now had it been an all-in-one night, and you had like, say, like the Boneyard match towards like the beginning and had like the Firefly Funhouse match towards like maybe like the end, then it would have been, you know, just that much better. But, you know, that's just me.
Yeah, it also has to do with the more matches you put on, the less time you can give every match.
Yeah, I can see that, yeah.
Let's look at some of these comments real quick before we head off here. Let's see. Some people say it should be one night. Some people say it should be 2 nights. I think it could be a while for people to adjust to the 2-night thing. Like I said, the more they do it, if they continue to do it, people will just get used to it. Then, you know what I mean? It would just be a thing at one point. So, the more you like I said, last year it felt weird because it was the first time. This year it may still feel weird a little bit too, but the more you do it, if WWE can say it's a big if they continue to do it, you just get used to it by then. I mean, it would just be a thing.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not opposed to it. It's just like it's all about like pacing to me, you know.
Let me scroll up and look at some of your guys' comments, man. You guys been rolling with the comments in here. I'm trying to scroll up and look at some of your guys' comments. How are you going to watch Elimination Chamber, WWE Network? I think this is the last month you can watch on the network before they move to Peacock.
Yep.
Some people are talking about UK time. Yeah, I mean, that is true. UK time, they do be watching the pay-per-views at 1 in the morning and shit. So, yeah, I feel for you guys.
Well, I mean, that's how, you know, people in our region feel when we have to wait until 3 in the morning to watch something like Wrestle Kingdom, and that doesn't end till like 8 in the morning.
Yeah.
So you give and you take.
Somebody says, do you think they'll have live crowds for WrestleMania? I think they already announced they're going to have crowds for WrestleMania.
If there's anybody that can campaign for that, it's Vince.
Well, number one, WrestleMania is going to be where the Super Bowl was at, and Super Bowl had fans, so WrestleMania will have fans. So.
And plus,
go ahead.
Yeah, and I was saying, like, plus this year, like, they had a dope theme, which is the pirate theme, and so now I'm thinking that, like, oh, so since we have like a bigger venue, like, it's going to be better because we're going to have to utilize that pirate theme, you know?
Right, yeah. I think they'll have the little cardboard cutouts, and they'll have the spaces, and they'll have fans too. Because that's how the Super Bowl was. Super Bowl had fans, and then they had the cardboard cutouts, and you had spaces. So there will be fans at WrestleMania. WWE's already said they'll have fans at WrestleMania. They just don't know how many yet.
Yeah, the only thing I would have to add to that is I defy you to tell me why WrestleMania can't have fans when we just saw the biggest sporting event of the year have fans in it.
And it's going to be in the exact same stadium, too. So it's like, yeah, it's definitely going to have fans. It wouldn't make – the thing is, I think WWE said they're trying to have more than what the Super – because Super Bowl had, I think, like 25,000 people, which was a lot. But I think they're trying to have more than that, but there will definitely be fans at WrestleMania. I mean, there may not be – not every seat we filled up. You'll see cardboard cutouts in certain seats, but the WrestleMania is going to be – that's where the Super Bowl was going to be at, and they were playing out for the NFL to see how the NFL was going to do things first. And now we saw how the NFL did things. So WrestleMania is going to follow in suit, and they'll have fans. They'll people out there asking shit. So I want to see I want to see the like you said the pirate thing play. So I want to see like a big ass ship or something part of the WrestleMania, some type of big ship or some type of something crazy. So
Yeah.
look at some more of these comments. Someone said Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship and Paul Heyman for the Advocate Manager. I wouldn't want to see that. I'm not gonna lie. I'm tired versus Roman versus Lesnar. I'm tired. I can't get behind that.
Yeah, we've seen that 3 or 4 times now, maybe 5.
But here's the thing though, it's like we haven't seen Brock versus this Roman Reigns. You know what I'm saying? That's like my only flaw with it. It's like, yeah, you know, it might be better than we expected, but I wouldn't book it. But I'm just saying, like, it's something to think about.
I guess.
I think Daniel Bryan should win the Chamber. Then on Friday, they should do the Universal Championship, and then he should face Edge at WrestleMania. I mean, that would kind of leave out Roman in the picture, though. You know what I mean? Like, Roman has to be in one of those big main event spots. So, what about Rollins versus Bryan versus Roman in a triple threat? Rollins versus Bryan versus Roman could be fire.
I'm not opposed to the idea. I just don't know if it's the best idea.
Yeah, and my only problem with that is that, like, I don't know, just have Seth Rollins do his own thing with Cesaro right now. But it's just like, I'm all for like Edge versus Roman, but if you can insert Daniel Bryan in there and have it actually make sense, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't think we haven't seen Edge versus Daniel Bryan. Like that could be a dope little feud in itself, you know what I'm saying? But you know, I'm not opposed to a triple threat of Daniel Bryan. What's the win?
One of the ways I think you could do it too is if you're going to have Roman versus Edge at WrestleMania and you can have Edge win. One way you can do it where you don't have to get the immediate rematch is if you do. So say you do. I think you could do like Daniel Bryan versus Cesaro versus Seth Rollins versus Nakamura in a fatal 4-way, and the winner gets a shot for the belt right after the next number one contender. And then you could have Rollins win and face Edge, because that could also play into a feud because number one, they haven't had a feud yet either. And if you remember, Edge tried to break the dude's neck again when he tried to get the authority back on Raw, and he tried to snap and he forced John Cena to bring back the authority. Or he was gonna snap Edge's neck. So Edge, that could be a storyline too. Like Edge, I didn't forget about that. You know what I mean? Like I didn't forget when you try to, you know, break my neck again, stuff like that. So that could be a way where you don't have to get the immediate rematch for Roman. You know what I mean? That could be ways where you could continue to do like the little vignettes I was talking about, shit like that. But that's a big stretch though. Somebody said Rollins versus Bryan versus Roman versus Cesaro versus Edge at WrestleMania in a fatal 5-way match.
5-way.
I don't see that happening either. First of all, it would be stupid for Edge to even take the match with 4 other guys in there. That would just be a disadvantage to him, storyline wise. But the fatal 5-way match, I think, would be a good match. I don't think it should happen for a WrestleMania match, personally.
I don't see a fatal 5-way for the world. Actually, to be honest with you, I don't see like a triple threat or a fatal 4-way or fatal 5-way or whatever the case may be for a world title for a very long time. Because I mean, like the talent that we got right now, like, and the field that we got right now is just too good to just have it be like for a fatal 4-way. I just want to see him 1-on-1, you know.
Yeah, to me, a fatal 5-way match for a world title only belongs on a pay-per-view that in the grand scheme of things doesn't matter, like a Fast Lane or something.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think somebody said Roman shouldn't lose anytime soon. He should win the next couple years at WrestleMania and then face The Rock at 38. I see. Like, I understand why a lot of y'all feel like Roman should lose, but he has to lose at some point. He's not going to be champion forever, and Edge is the only guy that makes sense to beat Roman right now, to me, storyline wise. So I think Roman could take the L at WrestleMania, and you can build him up stronger. Like I said, you can build Roman Reigns up stronger, chasing the belt back to get it back from Edge, because he has to lose at some point, bro. You guys have to realize he's not going to win. He's not going to be. He hasn't lost. Since when he came back at SummerSlam, he hasn't lost a match since he's been back at SummerSlam. That was in August. He has to lose it. He has to lose at some point. He can't keep winning matches forever. So if it's not going to be Edge, who's it going to be? That's the question right now. If it's not going to be Edge, who's going to be Roman? Can't be The Rock. If he's going to face The Rock at WrestleMania, The Rock has to lose at WrestleMania.
Yeah, see, and that's what I'm saying about SmackDown. It's like I don't see, because like I see more people on Raw that are like believable to take Drew's title or like to have like a good match with Drew than I do on SmackDown. So yeah, like I said, I don't know who like other than Daniel Bryan to me, because I love Daniel Bryan. I feel like he has another world title reign in him. It's just like they got to build him right, but it's just like I just don't see anybody else beating Roman right now.
He said he's losing to The Rock at WrestleMania. That's stupid. That makes no sense. That's more stupid than that makes no sense, bro. Because Roman Reigns is supposed to be the head of the table right now. Number one, The Rock does not need to. First of all, The Rock is not losing. He's losing to Roman Reigns at WrestleMania if he comes back.
I'm assuming that The Rock is even allowed to come back into the ring because, he's not allowed in the ring for the same reason John Cena isn't, because of their movie contracts and travel issues.
Mm-hmm. Well, if they're gonna do it, I think The Rock would make it happen. He's talking about next year for WrestleMania, like next WrestleMania 38 in Dallas, or WrestleMania in Hollywood 2 years from now. Number one, if The Rock came back, he would only come back to face Roman. He would put Roman Reigns over because guaranteed that would be his last match he ever had in his career. He would retire afterwards because there's really nobody else for him. He hasn't wrestled since John Cena at WrestleMania 29, so there's really no other thing for him to come back to WrestleMania. The Rock does not need to beat Roman Reigns because The Rock is not a full-time wrestler anymore. He's not a top guy in WWE anymore. Roman Reigns is the top guy in WWE right now. That's why he's the head of the table. He's been calling himself that for months. That's why he's the tribal chief. They can do the storyline based off who the real head of the table is, and obviously we know The Rock is box office. So obviously outside of WWE, he's fucking money made. But wrestling wise, WWE wise, The Rock he's not beating Roman. It doesn't make sense at all because it would just devalue Roman Reigns even more because The Rock doesn't need. How does it benefit Roman Reigns to lose to The Rock?
At least
does it benefit him?
At least not for a world title. If they have a storyline,
especially not for a Universal Championship.
If they have a storyline like without the title, yeah, I'm not opposed to that. But it's like
even if he doesn't have the belt, it still doesn't make sense for The Rock to beat Roman Reigns at all because it's not going to. There's no reason for him to beat Roman Reigns. You know what I mean? The same like when Goldberg came back and beat the Fiend. Why does it make sense for Goldberg to beat the Fiend? Does it? It doesn't make sense at all for Goldberg to beat the Fiend.
That's what I'm saying.
It makes more sense for Edge to beat Roman than it will for The Rock because there's a story there. Because number one, Edge is there pretty much full time now, really. And storyline wise, he has the comeback story that makes sense. He never lost the world title when he had to retire. And there are ways you could have the way they've been building up Edge right now. Him coming in number one at the Rumble, outlasting everybody, made him look strong, made him look great, proved to everybody that he still, can be a top guy, and that he still could pretty much. Because a lot of people didn't believe that he was going to come in number one and outlast. It's like, there's no way Edge can come in number one and outlast everybody. And I was telling people like, bro, he's going to be number one. He's going to win the entire thing. It makes sense for the story that they're trying to build. So, Edge winning makes a lot of sense, and you can build Roman Reigns up stronger to take the belt. Because I see what you said. You said Rock would win and then vacate the title. That's stupid. And once again, why would The Rock win and then just vacate the belt the next night? That makes no sense.
I wouldn't be mad if The Rock never stepped foot in a ring again.
I wouldn't be against it either. The only match I want him if he came back for would be Roman. That's the only match I would be excited for him for. But even if he came back, you would just know The Rock would lose. He's not going to win. Yeah. And I get why he would do it. Come back, put Roman over, and then you could have him retire the next time on Raw or whatever, however you want to do it. But because how they say, most people the wrestling tradition is when you have your last match, you're supposed to go out on your shield. You know what I mean? You're supposed to put somebody over, and that's why I was a little surprised for me when they said Undertaker was going to retire because I for sure thought like, okay, maybe the Fiend comes out and does something soon. You know what I mean? Because Undertaker's old school. You know what I mean? So he knows like when you lose your last match, when you have your last match, you're supposed to lose. That's how you go out. You know what I mean? So I still wouldn't be surprised if he came back for one more match. It wouldn't shock me because the way he went out was great. But Undertaker's a very old school guy. The same reason Sting came back. You go out the way you want to go out, and I'm not saying Undertaker. I'm not saying he's not happy with the way he went out, but I don't think it was up to him, man. I think it was kind of maybe a pandemic type Vince thing in a certain way because you know, obviously him and AJ were supposed to have a match, but it wasn't supposed to be a boneyard match at first. It's supposed to be in the ring type thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, and for Undertaker to retire in front of no fans too, you know what I mean? It's just like, bro, I don't know. It doesn't make. I'm not saying it. I'm not saying he won't ever come back, but it wouldn't surprise me if he did come back for some type of. It may not even be a match. It may be some type of fucking cinematic match that they did. You know what I mean? But he loses in a way where he gets buried or something like that.
Yeah, I see that.
That's how I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happened. But I appreciate you guys for being on. Appreciate you guys for being in the comments too. You guys lit up the comment section on fire. If I didn't get to your comments, if I didn't get to everybody's comments, I apologize. Make sure you guys tune in for the Chamber tomorrow, and then we have one more. The Chamber, then Fastlane, then WrestleMania, right? So you got Chamber, then Fastlane, and then WrestleMania. 100%. Yeah, 100%. I don't know how about feel about having Fastlane right there. I think they should just kind of have the Chamber be the last pay-per-view, and then you can start building up stories for WrestleMania. But that's just me. But
yeah, that's true.
Already when they build it in. That's possible too. That's possible. So you guys got some good opinions in here. I see a lot of good opinions in here for the comments, but we won't know till tomorrow. So make sure you guys watch the Chamber tomorrow. Stay tuned. Appreciate you guys for being on here. Go ahead and go one more time. Go ahead and plug in your social media. I'll let you guys plug in your social media stuff and tell everybody where they can follow you and all that stuff. So we'll start with the Smithception and then we'll go down to the bottom. So let's go in order.
All right. So, like I said earlier, you can just follow me at Smithception. The name that I have right here is the name that I have on all my social medias. I'm most active on TikTok. I have some YouTube content, hopefully some more to come. So, if you're interested in that, just go ahead and search this name on any platform.
And I'm Josiah the Official. Oh, right here. I'm Josiah the Official on TikTok. And I'm Josiah the Elite on YouTube. I game over there. And that's basically all I do over there is I play video games. And also on IG, I'm Josiah for Life. That's Life, LYFE. So yeah.
Make sure you give them guys a follow. Stay tuned. I'll be back on Tuesday with another episode, with another podcast I've been doing with Sean, Kyron, and Mountie. We're going to be doing a top 5 podcast. So for all the people, I know you got a lot of people in the chat been watching those podcasts too. So make sure you guys stay tuned for Tuesday, and I'll have you guys. We'll do something again, man. Maybe we'll do some type of set a prediction show. We'll do something else. We'll do 100%. Something different. I'll come up with that.
Absolutely, man.
100%.